Koala.
Hi, this is Marek from Elf Audio, and this is a video about the new feature in Koala called Quokka. Quokka is a synthesizer. It's specifically for Samurai, so it's available for free inside Samurai, and it's totally optional. If you don't want to use a synthesizer inside a sampler, I totally understand it. So, please only use it if you want to use it. So, the way you access it is a bit like the new MIDI out feature that we released, not so long ago, like a couple of weeks ago. And to get it, so you'd go into the sample section, and we have this row here called More, where the MIDI out lives, and also now Quokka lives. And you can either drag it in directly from here, or if you're in full screen, you can just tap it and press the load button at the bottom. So now we've got an instance of Quokka. As you can see, it's already making some sounds, which is great. And then if I open up the editor, you can see this is the interface. In order to fit all of the parameters, we've had to use tabs to make it easily accessible and not too sort of overwhelming. So you've got an oscillator, a filter, LFO, envelope, and then also a preset section. And if you're using an iPhone or an iPad in portrait mode, it looks like this. But if you go to landscape mode, it will sort of lay out each section side by side, so you get to see everything all at once. With the exception of the preset section, which you sort of tap this preset well, and you get all of your presets listed like that. So we'll just go back to the portrait mode because it just looks bigger on the screen. You can see a lot more of what's going on for now. So yeah, first of all, we've got the oscillator section, and you only get one oscillator, but it's a very powerful oscillator. Like you've got 4 shapes. You've got sawtooth, square, sine, we call it sub, and a kind of a random mode, like a noise mode. And each of them are totally interpolatable, so you can hear. And this is modulatable, but I'll show you that later. But then within each of these kind of oscillator shapes, you can morph. So if now we're on the sawtooth wave, I use the morph control, and it basically morphs. If I play it, it's bringing in a lower octave, and then that's at 50%. But if you keep going, it starts detuning. Maybe we'll just bring this down an octave. Okay, there we go. Yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, and then if you're in the square wave, you get sort of like a pulse width modulation. So, and then if you're in this sine sub thing, this is a bit more complicated because I wanted to add just some more interesting different kinds of sounds. So like sine is the most boring sound, but it's really useful. It's great for keys. It's great for lots of things. So there's your sine, but then as you move this up, it gradually turns it into a triangle, which is also a very useful basic sound. And then if you keep going, it starts kind of doing a kind of FM thing on it, basically blending from this triangle shape to a kind of interesting FM shape. And then if you keep going, you end up with it's difficult to explain, but it's an additive synthesis model of a Fender Rhodes. So I've got Fender Rhodes, and I sampled the sounds, the sort of spectral harmonic content of the notes, and mapped it onto the keys. And it doesn't sound like a Fender Rhodes on its own, but with some tweaking, you can get some really nice keyboard sounds out of it. I mean, it sounds boring, but you can make it sound interesting anyway. And then all of these are totally, modulatable, and you can move both at the same time. But even better, you can actually move your finger around in this graphic to control those two. So there you get lots of different kinds of sounds. And like another thing that's very useful is if you double tap on the UI on the visual, it hides all the controls, and then you've basically kind of got an XY pad that you can control much more freely. So yeah, that's the oscillator section. So we go now to the filter section, and it's pretty bog standard what you get on this page, like cutoff, resonance, and drive. So you've got basically a bit of distortion, and you've got low pass, band pass, and high pass filters. And it is a really nice one. It doesn't quite self oscillate, but and again you can use the XY pad up here, like the visuals as an XY pad, and put distortion on it. So that's that. And then we've got LFO section. So you get one LFO, I know, but I wanted to keep this simple and kind of just a useful, simple synthesizer that's still quite powerful. Yeah, basically you get in the visual, you actually just get a display of what the LFO is doing. So we can see now it's just basically a sine wave, and it's attached to the cutoff. So I'm just going to turn that resonance down. You can see also on the actual control of the cutoff, it's showing what the LFO is doing in a little red tick. The black tick is the value you've set it at. So it's kind of useful to see what's going on. So change the speed, and you've got your sort of standard LFO shapes. You've got this sort of like sine, square, triangle, saw down, saw up, and then sort of random, stepped and random lines. I don't really know how to describe that one, but I think we just call it noise. Sort of undulates. Yeah, okay, cool. And you can set the oscillator, the LFO, to sync to the BPM of your track. So you've got yeah, like 1/16 or whatever, and then you can target different things. So you've got the pitch of the oscillator. Whoa, okay. Slow that down. Or you've got the shape, which is like that first control. Here we go, the shape. So you can see it's sort of going between sawtooth and a square sort of thing. And then, sorry about that. And then you've got shape, morph. That's that cool morph control. And then you've got cutoff, we've done, and amplitude is basically just the volume of the signal. So you don't see it on loads and loads of synths, but I just like it because you can use it to create a quick tremolo effect, especially if you're working with, let's say, trying to do sort of nice key sounds and stuff. And I don't know, maybe you could make it sound interesting in some ways. Yeah, cool. So that's that. And then now we're in the envelope section. And there's two envelopes. One is a amplitude ADSR, so like attack, decay, sustain, release. The attack means how long the sound takes to initially start. The decay is what happens just after that. So you can see there's a little beam that runs, or like a ball that runs down the slope of the ADSR. The sustain is the end volume of the sound as it sort of continues, and then the release is like how long is the tail after you let go. So that's the amplitude ADSR. And then you've got the modulation envelope, which is, I don't know, I think maybe you call this a D. If you have ADSR, this is just a decay envelope. And I know it would be really nice to make it much more complicated and much more comprehensive, but you know me, it's simple and you can get a lot out of it. So basically the idea is you have this sort of line here that represents whatever you're modulating. So you've got now we've got the cutoff, and the time will set how steep this curve is, and the depth will set, you know, where it starts. So you can hear that sort of like twang thing. Make it longer, make it shorter, whatever, and you could do it with pitch. So it's good for making bass drums. And then you've got, yeah, basically you can modulate a few more things. There's obviously no point in modulating amplitude because you've already got the ADSR. And then presets. So You can save your own presets with this by just pressing the plus button. Then it will ask you for a name, and it will give you sort of default names and stuff like that. And they all get saved into the user folder. But there's also some built-in ones, and these are just the beginning of. We're starting to collect these from users and stuff. And these are all contributed, and they're pretty cool. But yeah, I think we're going to add more and more to these. Yeah, and if you press them, you can kind of hear what they sound like. Yeah, these ones are quite cool. A user called Aero Johannes made 808 sort of clone thing, which was nice. But yeah, there's some presets in there, and then yeah, like another one is another thing to mention is that there is it's polyphonic. So if I open a keyboard, you can play polyphonically, or if you switch to mono, you get a glide control, which is like sort of portamento. If I just turn it up a bit. So yeah, that's pretty fun. So yeah, that's basically it. One thing that's sort of nice to know about it is if you do have it in sort of landscape mode. Sorry. You can open these all up, the visualizers, and then you've just basically got a load of XY controls to control your synthesizer. And whilst you don't get access to every single parameter, it's sort of nice to have it like this because you can kind of play and find things that you didn't know you would find, basically. So yeah, that's basically it. That's Quokka. Thanks a lot.